Okay, let's dive into one of the most intense and honestly fascinating books of the Hebrew Bible, Judges. It's a dark and often brutal story for sure, but it's also this powerful case study in what happens when a society completely unravels from the inside out. It all starts with a huge question. What happens when a nation loses its leader? See, Israel's heroic commander, Joshua, is dead. This is the guy who led them into the promised land, and now he's gone. And there's no successor, no plan. An entire generation of leadership has just vanished, creating this massive power vacuum that sets a really dangerous stage for everything that's about to happen. So, with no one at the helm, you've got this nation that's basically a ship without a captain, a nation adrift. And right away, the book introduces what one scholar, Dr. David Howard, calls its main theme, a downward spiral into chaos. And that's the perfect way to put it, because this isn't just a few random bad events, it's a steady, almost predictable decline. And man, things fall apart fast. This one line from the text, this is everything. The generation that saw all the miracles, the one that took the land, they're gone. And their kids, well, they have no real connection to any of it. It's like they have spiritual amnesia. And that right there, that's the spark that lights the fire of apostasy, which is just a fancy word for them turning their backs on God. So you might be asking, how did it get this bad so quickly? Well, the seeds for this whole mess were actually planted way earlier. The problem really started with a mission that was never finished, a failure to follow through on the instructions they were given way back in the book of Joshua. At its core, it was a military problem. Think about it. The Israelites are foot soldiers. They're great in the rugged, hilly country. But on the flat, open plains, they were totally outmatched. The Canaanites had iron chariots, kind of like the tanks of the ancient world. This created a stalemate, and it meant enemy strongholds were just left scattered all over the land. And listen, this wasn't just one tribe messing up. No way. The book just lists them off one after another: Manasseh, Ephraim, Zebulun, on and on. It was a widespread, total, systemic failure to complete the mission. And because of this, they get a pretty stark warning. The consequences are laid out plain and simple. The very people they fail to deal with will become like thorns in your sides, a constant pain. And their gods? They'll become a snare, a trap that the Israelites are going to keep falling into over and over again. Okay, so dot failure, it basically sets up the engine that drives the whole rest of the book. It's this vicious cycle of sin and rescue that just keeps repeating. And here's the thing, it gets worse every single time. This cycle is the backbone of the entire story. The sin that kicks off the cycle every time is apostasy. The Israelites just keep abandoning their God to worship the local Canaanite gods, especially Baal, a storm and fertility god, and his partner Asherah. This becomes the nation's Achilles heel, their fatal flaw. So let's break down this cycle. It's got 5 predictable stages. First, they sin, worshiping other gods. Second, they end up in servitude, an enemy nation takes them over. Third, supplication. They cry out for help. Fourth, salvation. God sends a deliverer, a judge. And fifth, you get Sabbath, a period of peace. But here's the crucial part, the kicker. Every time this wheel turns, the sin gets worse, the oppression gets harsher, and the rescue gets a whole lot messier. The spiral only ever goes down. Which brings us to the heroes of the story. Or maybe anti-heroes? The judges. Now, when you hear judge, don't think of someone in a black robe with a gavel. These guys are more like charismatic military leaders or warlords. And you see right away, they are very, very human and very flawed. So judge number 1 is Othniel, and he's like the textbook example. The cycle plays out perfectly. Israel sins, they get oppressed, they cry out, and Othniel saves the day. Boom, 40 years of peace. It's the ideal case, a nice, clean rescue. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it's pretty much the last clean story in the whole book. Next up is Ehud. And this is where the gritty realism of the book really kicks in. Ehud is from the tribe of Benjamin, and he's left-handed. That's a super important detail. He uses it to his advantage to pull off one of the most shocking assassinations in the entire Bible against the Moabite king Eglon. Yeah, wow. The text does not shy away from the graphic details, does it? It's so visceral. And that's exactly the point. This kind of raw detail is a feature of Hebrew storytelling. It's a way of saying, look, we're not going to sanitize this for you. This is messy. This is how it really happened. But here's the crazy part. What was the result of this incredibly brutal act? 80 years of peace. That is double what Othniel, the textbook judge, achieved. The book just presents this moral complexity without any comment, and it forces you to grapple with it. A messy, violent act led to a longer, more stable peace. What do you do with that? And then there's Shamgar. He gets like one verse. He's famous for killing 600 Philistines with an ox goad, which is basically just a pointy stick for poking cattle. It's another one of these quick, powerful stories of an unlikely hero using an unconventional weapon to save the day. It just hammers home the point. Deliverance can come from anywhere. All right, so where is all of this heading? You've got these early stories, and even with their successes, they're really just the beginning of the decline. They're setting the stage for the book's ultimate, really sobering conclusion about what happens when a society completely loses its moral compass. And here's the crucial takeaway. Othniel, Ehud, and Shamgar, believe it or not, they're the good judges. As the book goes on, the saviors themselves become more and more corrupt, more and more violent. Leaders like Gideon, Jephthah, and especially the tragic Samson, they become as much a part of the problem as the solution. The downward spiral picks up speed, and the saviors start to look just like the chaos they're supposed to be fighting. And it all comes down to this single line. It's the line the entire book builds toward. It gets repeated 4 times like a drum beat at the end, and it's the final chilling summary of the whole era. This is the ultimate diagnosis of a society in collapse. No shared leadership, no moral center, just every single person doing whatever they think is right. And it leaves us with a provocative question to think about. What happens when the only standard for right and wrong is yourself?